Hi everybody, hey badasses, thank you so much for watching this, and to all of the replay viewers, you're in for a treat. Because it's just me, we don't have any guests today. No, I'm kidding, of course we have a guest and he is amazing. So today we're having probably the most special guest we've ever had so far. Not that we don't love the others, but Matt is just fantastic. So, you are about to be graced by the presence of somebody who has over 30 years of experience with entrepreneurship and personal branding and social media. He is currently the CEO of a company called BB, which I'm sure he'll tell you all about. I personally already fell in love with it. And without further ado, I would like to present to you Matt Sweetwood. Woo!
Hi, everyone.
Matt.
Nice to be here, Desi. Now, listen, after that introduction, I don't know, I'm just kind of basking in the glory of it. So we don't really have to talk about anything. I'll just sort of sit here and enjoy that moment, you know. Very nice to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to absorb a little bit of your energy, and we're going to have a fantastic talk today.
Awesome. Now, let me just adjust a couple of things here so I can see you better. There we go. Now, I want to start this off by asking you to please tell us about how you became so big in the social media and personal branding sphere, because honestly, just Googling your name makes me feel so excited, because it's what I envision for myself one day. It's like hundreds and hundreds of results pop up, and I'm sure everybody here would like to know how you got started.
Wow, that's a big question. So the first thing I always say is that when you Google me, only believe half of what you read. The other stuff, it's not true. No, seriously. So for me, I was an early adopter of social media. What happened was I was running a company that hit a very, very difficult market condition. We were a photographic supply company, a distributor of photographic supplies. And for those of you who are young in the audience, you might not know what I'm talking about, but we used to sell film, you know, the stuff that you probably have seen in old movies. At one time, my company was a 5 share in the United States for film, which meant that we sold 5% of the rolls of film sold in the United States. Now, by 2008, essentially there was no film sold. I was almost out of business. All of our customers, for example, small stores and the camera stores that we were selling throughout the country, were going out of business. So I had no way to feed my 5 children and pay for all of my ex-wife's alimony payments. So I had to do something in order to save our business. So to do that, I actually opened the camera store. Everybody laughed at me. They said, "You're crazy. All the camera stores went out of business." But I reinvented the camera store model. We ended up becoming a very, very successful camera store, actually the 3rd largest one in the country within about 5 years. Every camera store that exists today actually runs off of that model. But the trick was, when I opened the store, I needed a way to market it. Now, if you go back to 2007 and 2008, it was really the beginning of the big social media explosion. And I just became an early adopter of social media. Now, the really interesting thing was, when I first started, I started to use social media to promote my business. But it wasn't so effective, because when you sit there and you say, okay, hey, come to my store and buy a camera, nobody cares. But what was really interesting was when I started to talk personally in social media. Like, I had a Facebook account, I started talking about my personal life. I was into car racing and professional hockey and things like that, and people started to resonate with that. But it wasn't until I started to talk about my own personal experience as a single dad. So I raised my kids on my own. Their mom left when they were little, and so I became a pioneer in talking about single fatherhood. And it was the draw to that that made me realize that a personal brand can be a very, very powerful thing. And so within a few years, I actually had built a personal brand which was bigger than the company. And I used that in a way to draw people into the company. Because as we know, when you have a powerful personal brand, people think you're cool, just like you're cool. I mean, nobody's cooler than you. I mean, just look at that hat you're wearing. I mean, you have to be really cool to wear a hat like that. And so in my case, you know, I'm just like a bald middle-aged guy, so I have to do a lot more work to be cool. But I eventually became cool and drew a very, very big following to myself. And by drawing that following, people wanted to do business with my company. They wanted to interact with me. And if you go back and you look at my social media, you see how I use my personal social media interacting with my business social media to do that. And then the rest is kind of history. I sold my business. I started focusing on my brand. I have a book coming out in March. Actually, I have a publishing deal. It's going to come out on March 6th called My Big Life. I started blogging, which is something that anybody who wants to build a personal brand absolutely has to do. Keeping in mind I was a math major, so I had no idea. I learned how to blog. I now write for Entrepreneur and the Good Men Project and the Huffington Post and Digital Imaging Reporter, which is in the photo industry, and all sorts of things. So that's really the long story, you know, but it's a long explanation. But the key aspect of what I did was I started and unrelentingly worked on my social brand, my personal brand for the last, whatever, 8 or 9 years. Sorry for the long answer, but it was a complicated question.
Hey, don't ever apologize for long answers. We love long answers. And we love asking complicated questions. So guys, if you have any questions, especially complicated ones for Matt, please shoot them in the comment section. I'll make sure I check them out for you. Now, I just want to highlight a part of Matt's story so far, because I'm telling my people over and over again on a daily basis how important it is for them to share their story. And a lot of people still feel very self-conscious about that. I have a lot of clients that think their stories are not inspiring, that they're not really going to affect their brand in any way. But I think we can both agree that your story can actually make or break your brand in many cases. And also, a quick side note for all of you guys who think that your stories are not inspiring, I can take every single one of your stories and pinpoint to what exactly about it is inspiring. Because you know what? You're too close to your story. You have no idea how other people are going to feel about it. So share it. For the love of God, share it.
Absolutely. I think that's a brilliant point. Is that, I get that. I speak on personal branding, and a lot of people say, well, I don't really have anything. I'm like, I bet you do. And if I question them right there in front of the audience, sure enough, something will come out of them, and I'll be like, right about that. I promise you, people will be interested in it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I keep saying.
Right, and isn't that really the key, is to create interest. If you just try to directly sell people or try to get something from them, it's not going to be effective. When you create interest, when you say something interesting, you're actually doing something for the audience. You're helping them. You're providing them with content. You're providing them with entertainment or humor or an inspiring story. And as a result, they become attracted to you. And that's what it's about.
Exactly. And one thing that our people in this group are quite afraid of is seeming sleazy when they're selling. And my point that I usually make is, you know what? Once your audience has fallen in love with you thanks to your story, they will never perceive you as sleazy because you've already given them so much, okay? They already know you. They can understand you. They've had the aha moment where they found out why you started your business and why you're the way you are today.
Exactly.
So don't ever be afraid of that.
Yeah, and I really, the words that we're looking for at this moment are authenticity and trust. So when you're authentic and you actually authentically talk about what's going on in your life, people build trust in you. And once they build trust in you, then that sleaze factor goes away. I mean, that's really, really important. Like I said, if you come at people and you try to sell them something, they know you're trying to get something from them. But if you're sharing your story and you're being authentic about it, which was really key. Authenticity is the key to building a successful personal brand. You have to be authentic or people will see right through it and they'll feel you're sleazy or trying to get something from them.
Preach. Exactly. And just to compare something really quickly for you guys, I live stream all the time. And last month I shared my personal story on a live stream on my Facebook page. That story got almost 3,000 organic views. Then I did a regular live stream where I just gave you some value related to personal branding that got around 1,000 views. So look at the difference. Okay, people connect to you when you share your personal story. People actually want to buy from you without you even selling to them simply because they create a connection with you.
You know, and I want to add something to that. And I think because we like to be real in these interviews. You know, and I hope you take this with respect because I think you are an excellent business person and a marketer. But, you know, when I go on video, like I said, I'm a bald middle-aged guy. if I get out there and I just kind of drone on or I try to sell, people are going to turn me off. When you're physically attractive, you use what you have. You want to draw people in. I have 3 daughters that are in their 20s. And I always tell them to use what you have. So you have to keep that in mind, is to use your assets. So when you go on there, you're an attractive woman. I'm sorry I say that. I'm doing that without respect. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything like that. But this is reality, is that you're going to go out there. People are going to naturally want to be interested in you because of the way you look. And as a result, if you say something personal or intelligent, you really are going to draw a big following. For me, I have to position myself in a way. Remember, we're talking from a marketing perspective, being authentic. I have to position myself as a dad, as a single dad, as a business owner. That's my wisdom, my experience. That's what's going to draw people in. I just can't sit there, put a black hat on, smile at people, and expect them to get to follow me. And that's really what it's about, is that you use what you've got. Whatever God gave you, you use it.
I love that you said that. So many people argue with me on that. I absolutely agree, and I love that you've told your daughters that as well. I'm not here to deny. You know, of course, it's much easier to gain a following, but one thing that is not easy is to gain the right, relevant following. Now, that's what comes good.
Exactly. I don't have anybody, I don't have women sending me, naked pictures of themselves, and I'm sure you get that kind of thing, but it doesn't matter, because you're not out there really to please everybody. You don't care, like you said, you don't care about that audience. You want to use what you've got to draw in a relevant audience. That is a fantastic point. Look, I get a lot of, for me, my version of that is I get people asking me for stuff. They come on and they just start asking me, can you recommend me? Can you do this? Can you hire me? How do I write for Entrepreneur? How do I do this? Can you publish this? I get literally a daily stream of stuff. And so you push that kind of aside and you focus on the relevant audience, of course.
Exactly. Fantastic point. And by the way, we already have a ton of questions, but I first want to ask Matt a few questions before I get to yours, guys. So stay patient and stay until the end. We have a lot of people watching, by the way. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Now, this is an important question that I know everybody will love me for asking you. So we are right now in a group full of over 1,000 entrepreneurs, and most of them want to be influencers. So I'm curious about how has being an influencer helped your career, and how did you actually, how did you get into your first publication?
Okay. So being an influencer really is about building a successful and powerful personal brand. Now, I did it a little bit accidentally because of the story that I told you. But ultimately, it's about picking subject areas and working them unendingly. I always say, if you're going to use social media as the tool to build your personal brand, social media is not something you do, it's a lifestyle. It has to become an authentic part of your existence. And then you just need to go out there and work it. Talk, just like you do. I mean, you have created a brand for yourself that you're synonymous with teaching people how to brand, right? That's what people will think about when they think of you. And that's the way you should think about becoming an influencer, is that you want to have people think about, when they think of you, they think of whatever it is that you want to influence. And really, influencer is a term I think that people associate with, like, oh, I'm going to get hired by a brand. But before you become an influencer, you really need to be a thought leader. Let's pause on that for a second. So you need to be a thought leader, which means you would need to express original, creative, and entertaining thoughts on a particular topic. The way you do that is by blogging or videos or any kind of content. And then you become a thought leader. And once you become a thought leader, you can build a following, which then may lead you to become an influencer. I know that was a little bit convoluted, but I think that's really the heart of the message.
I agree. And we have a fantastic question related to social media from Mark Dudek. Hey, Mark, thank you for being with us. So Mark says, I'm just starting my business and I'm geographically bound. Minus Facebook ads, what is the best way to market on social media?
Okay, a little bit of it, geographically bound. What does he mean by that? He's in an area where there's where his customers are all local. Is that really? I
think so. I'm pretty sure he means he has a physical. Oh yes, he has a physical location. Yes.
Okay, so I had a store. I had a physical location. So for me, when you have a local location and you have the ability to interact personally with people around you, I believe that using a personal Facebook page is the most effective way, because you have a limited audience and it's obviously easy to connect with each of those people. Another trick when you have a local audience is to actually connect with them on LinkedIn or BD. LinkedIn, I'll give you a little stat from my business. Over the whatever 20-something years I ran my business, 99% of the customers that I connected with on LinkedIn remain customers. So that is a very, very personal way to connect with somebody in a way they won't think you're trying to get in with them personally. You know, a lot of people think a Facebook page is too personal. I don't want to share. It's got my family and stuff. So I believe that a personal Facebook page is the way that I would start. And I would start by building a personal brand. In other words, talk about your position, not trying to sell them your business, but what does your life look like as a business owner? And that's an indirect way of getting people interested in what you're doing. So that's really the top level answer. Obviously, depending on the nature of the business, you can use Instagram. You know, Instagram can be a very, very good method for very artistically displaying things about your store or about your business. That's also a good way, as long as it's not too salesy. So, I mean, that would be sort of the initial start. Start with a personal Facebook page and build your personal brand there.
And to add something to that, if you're looking for an organic way to really, really grow your both your personal brand and the brand of your physical store, I would absolutely recommend live streaming. Live streaming is currently, many people think that everybody is using it, but that is not true. The percentage of people on live stream is still very, very small, both on Facebook and on Periscope, not to mention Instagram Live now exists as well. So I would say test. Which content type works best for you? Does live streaming work for you? Does podcasting work for you? Try everything and then decide on a couple of mediums that you're going to use, and make sure you don't overwhelm yourself, because I'm in contact with a lot of entrepreneurs who are constantly overwhelming themselves trying to be everywhere all the time.
That, you know, let me just add 2 points to that. When I talk a lot on personal branding, I tell people to use video. A lot of people are very shy to use video. They are. They're a little bit shy. They're not, you know, as gregarious on camera as you are, and so they get a little bit shy about it. And that's why I would say, go out, build a following, get comfortable with your audience on Facebook, and, you know, if you're not comfortable live streaming, and then just try a short one. See how it goes. You can always delete it afterwards if you drool, stutter, you know, fumble, curse, all sorts of those things. You can always delete it afterwards. But anyway, live stream obviously is a fantastic way to talk, authentic way to talk about your business too, of course.
And even better, you can add a custom audience and just stream to yourself or a couple of other people if that's going to help you get started.
You know, also what I've done, which is a really good technique, is I've actually walked in my business or in my store with my smartphone and interviewed people, because sometimes interviewing people is a little easier than a monologue. Like you and I have no problem. You can just turn the camera on, put the microphone on, and we can talk for an hour. Not everybody has that ability or, you know, has learned that ability. Sometimes if you just talk to somebody else and do it on camera, it becomes very, very interesting. So that's also a good technique to begin live streaming.
That's very true. And it kind of offers people a behind the scenes look on everything that's going on. And who doesn't love a behind the scenes look?
Absolutely. Sometimes you can do something simple. I remember in my company, we'd have a birthday party. We'd have a birthday celebration, and you just live stream everybody singing happy birthday to one of your employees. People love that stuff.
Yeah, in in the only company I've ever worked for, we had an office dog, and they loved showing off the dog all over social media, and that drew so many people to follow us. It was crazy. You
know, it's funny, in my store, one of my partners had a Doberman Pinscher, and we actually put a company uniform on him and gave him his own Facebook page. We strapped a GoPro to him and let him run around the building and the store and the warehouse and everything. Trust me, it got a lot of views and a lot of attention. So there's all sorts of creative ways you can use social media in order to draw attention without that direct sleazy selling.
I agree. And by the way, I would totally do that with the dog. Absolutely. We have a fantastic question from Avishai. And that, by the way, is a question that has gained a lot of traction lately, and a lot of debates have started because of it. He asks, Matt, do you separate between your personal life views and your brand life on social media, or are your beliefs part of your personal brand?
I love that question, and the answer is I don't believe there's a difference between your personal brand and your business brand. They're actually as interrelated as you can get, and that is actually the goal. The goal, now listen to the word I'm going to use, is to curate your personal brand in a way that it interacts effectively with your business brand. So therefore, that means you don't post stuff in your personal brand that would embarrass you on the business side. And the idea being that a personal brand is personal, but not private. I'm going to say that again because it is extremely important. A personal brand is personal, but it is not private. Meaning that if you go on my Facebook page, you have no idea who I kissed last night. You have no idea of any fetish or weird thing that I do. I don't post pictures of my cat. I don't own a cat, but I'm just using that metaphorically. I don't post private things about my life. I already said that I write about fatherhood. I write about parenting. I have 5 children. Go on my Facebook or go on my social media and see if you can really identify my children. You can't. You can't find where they are. You can't find personal things about them, but I can speak in a very personal way about them without disclosing private information. So that question really is at the heart of using a personal brand to build your business. In fact, that's one of the talks that I give. One of the talks I give, if you go on my speaker page, if you go to msweetwood.com, you go there, one of the talks I give is using your personal brand to build your business. So the answer to that question in a big way is personal brand, business brand, intertwined together in a way that they promote each other.
We are very much on the same page with that as well, which leads me to a follow-up question then. Today, I had an interesting discussion with somebody on Facebook who had shared a very strong political view. So, we were having the discussion of whether you should at all talk about religion and politics as part of your personal brand if your business has nothing to do with those things.
Okay, this is one of my topics. If you go, I've written several articles on personal branding. If you go onto Entrepreneur, you go onto my website, you'll see them. And one of the axiom rules of social media is nobody should be able to know what your political affiliation is. It falls under the category of never post anything that doesn't serve your purpose. We are curating our content for our brand, which means that even though we're being authentic, we control what it is we post. So if you sit there and you post "Make America Great Again," for those American users, that's a big Donald Trump slogan, half the country will go rah, 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 right on. The other half of the country will unfriend you, which means that you've lost half of your customers or half of your potential audience. So under no circumstances should people be able to determine your political beliefs by looking at your social media. Now, on the other hand, if you feel the need to vent like that, there are closed, we hear the word, closed groups on Facebook and other platforms where you can go and vent all of your vitriol against the candidate or party of your choice, but never on your social media. It does not serve your purpose. Now, with respect to religion, I tend to give a slightly more latitude to that than that. In other words, the rule isn't quite as strict. So if you write on your Facebook post, "I feel blessed by God today," I'm really okay with that. What I'm not okay with is we're having a Bible revival meeting this Sunday and send out invites to all of your friends. Bad idea, okay? So there's a difference between sort of a general spiritual discussion, which is, I think, very valid, particularly if your audience is over like 30 years old. People get more spiritual as life takes them down several notches, so that is okay. But religion itself and doctrine is not something that you should get into. So those are hard and fast rules. If you have political posts, remove them.
That is usually what I preach as well, and that is also what I said to that person today, and he said a very interesting argument that I absolutely disagree with. He said, well, your online presence is meant to polarize, so who cares about the people who stop following me because of my political views? That will still make the other half more loyal to me. And I said, that is not how polarizing works, because this is completely different. This is religion and politics.
No. You're 100% right. Now look, he actually admitted in his statistics, he's willing to give up on 50% of his customers. The general rule that I say is when I post something, if I engage 80 to 90% of the audience, but I piss off 10%, I might make that calculus. I might. Because you can't please all the people all the time, and you don't want to be too wishy-washy with what you post. So to me, the number really is 80 or 90%. Because remember, once you piss somebody off, once you chase them away, you're unlikely to ever get them back. So the percentage can't be 50-50, that's a mistake. And there's a difference also in his term of using polarizing. That's the wrong word. You want to be thought-provoking, you can be controversial, but you don't want to be polarizing. Let me give you a personal example from that. I just did a series where I did a live video, I did an article, I wrote an article for Entrepreneur Magazine entitled How to Save $200,000, an article for the Good Men Project, which was entitled We Need to Reinvent the Way Marriage Works, and I did a live video on it. Those were all related to marriage, and I argued that marriage should be a 2-year renewable contract like a car lease. Now that is a controversial statement, right? It agitates people. People yelled at me, particularly women yelled at me a little bit, but I did it in a way to remain friends with everybody because I made valid arguments. I respected their sort of coming at me, but it's not that politics where people just are not going to listen to any kind of argument. So to me, that kind of controversial discussion is very different than a polarizing discussion. Like, for example, imagine if I phrased the article that all women try to marry you for your money. Now, if I had written the article like that, I would take half the audience of women who would then like call me a misogynist, call me an asshole, excuse my language, your show, by the way, that's the only reason I would use that, otherwise I never would, and they would never want to connect with me again. So you don't take an article like that, you phrase it in a way which creates a controversy or a discussion, and that is a better way to do it than polarize your audience. I have an article coming out today on the Good Men Project where I talk about, I don't know if people, you have an international audience, know that there was a march in Charlottesville in the United States where neo-Nazis marched, alt-right and alt-left protesters came together, and there was a fight. A young lady tragically was run over in a car by a Nazi, 19 people, it was just a mess. And I wrote an article not taking sides. Obviously Nazis are easy to take sides against, but I wrote an article on the right way to protest. So I leveraged the news event, but in a way that's unlikely to make people angry. And I argued that if somebody is protesting, you don't want to counter-protest in person. Use social media, write your congressman. I did this, so I leveraged off it. I danced around a controversial topic, but avoided becoming polarized. So to me, that's the line that everybody wants to walk. Do not be polarizing, controversial, thought-provocative, and be careful of the amount of the audience that you're actually going to chase away when you do it.
I bet a lot of people are having a major breakthroughs right now listening to this. So I just want to ask your audience to please throw us a 1 in the comment section if you love what Matt just said, because I think this is a fantastic tip. And I'm hearing more and more people talk about polarizing. And this is something that I would literally cut out of this video and send to them privately to let them know what polarizing actually is.
Someone just asked a question I saw about cursing, by the way. I'll address that really fast. I essentially never curse. This is a personal choice. It's actually a personal improvement thing. I realized, particularly living in New York, the F-bomb actually becomes a way of life. And I decided as a personal improvement for my brand, I am a CEO. I've been on national TV. I do that kind of thing. So I try not to curse because I never want to see a video replay of me doing that. It's personal development, but I don't necessarily think it's a negative. Like I have listened to you, Desi, and I know that sometimes you let it rip a little bit. And actually, I think it fits in your brand. This is really a personal judgment of the business that you're involved in, what you're doing, who you are, and so on. As a general rule, don't overdo it. As a general rule, if you can avoid it. But if it works in your brand and it's appropriate, do it. But just remember, your video could replay, and I have the mother rule. Funny, my mother ran away from my kids, but I still have the mother rule because it appeals to everybody, is that if you're happy with your mother seeing what you just said, then it's good. If you're not, don't do it.
That's a very good point. And if your mother doesn't speak English like mine, well, then what are you going to do?
That's the best thing. You can get away with anything.
Exactly, yeah. And by the way, you mentioned a few of the big publications that you're a contributor for, and I bet our audience is dying to hear more about something they're always wondering about. So, of course, all of us are entrepreneurs, and all of us are dying to get into publications like Entrepreneur, like the Huffington Post, Fast Company. So what is a person to do in order to get themselves in a publication like Entrepreneur, for example? Should they pitch themselves, or should they just wait for people to hear about their story and contact them?
Okay, I appreciate the setup of that question. Waiting is called failure. Okay, I call waiting and failure this exact same thing. But you have to be realistic. In other words, I almost on a daily basis, I mentioned this before, that somebody essentially writes me on a daily basis, how do I get into Entrepreneur, Good Men Project, or Huffington, whatever it is, or can you publish this for me? So the first thing that you should never do is reach out to a contributor and ask him to do something that would be inappropriate, because he will never do that. He or she will never speak to you again. So for example, publish my article under your name. I mean, that's a violation of the rules. Or offer to pay somebody. Entrepreneur, for example, has specific rules about receiving compensation from anybody you mention. So I'm going to jeopardize my position because you want to give me a few $100 or whatever. So that's the first thing of what not to do. Now, if you want to be a contributor, first of all, your writing has to be really good. They just don't take writing from anybody. So the first thing that they typically ask is, let me see what you've written. And I promise you that 9 out of 10 people who come to me have written 2 articles on their blog. When I went to Entrepreneur, by the time I got to Entrepreneur, I had probably written 20 or 25 published articles for other publications. I had written on LinkedIn Pulse and had my articles featured as best of the day on LinkedIn. I already was a social media influencer. I have a verified Twitter account, a verified Facebook account. So you see, you have to put the work in advance. And then when you go to them, you have to submit a really good piece of writing and hope that they actually notice you. I mean, that's ultimately the way it works, is no shortcuts. You have to build your social media following, build your writing, build quality work, and then submit something that's going to be appealing to them, and you're going to get in. That's how you get in. That's really the answer. No easy ways. You're not just going to submit and get in. First thing you should do is, here's what just simple rule. Everybody go write 10 articles that are great. Then start submitting articles to these publications.
That's a great tip. And I would just like to ask you a follow-up question on that, because I was talking to an entrepreneur contributor a few months ago, and he told me that when people pitch contributors really want to know about your social media following, because ultimately the article, they want their articles to have a lot of attention, right? And if you have a big social media following already, then they are likely to choose you. Of course, if your writing is good as well, if your story is good, yes, they're likely to pick you over somebody else. So is that true? Yes,
and the reason that is, and this is sort of a fallacy about the way contributing to these platforms, a big fallacy that people have, is they think that you publish an article on the platform and then you immediately get a viral result. It's like publishing a book. You have to promote your own article. Now, Entrepreneur in particular has a very big following. But if you don't promote your article, you'll end up with a few hundred shares on Entrepreneur. If you want articles, like I have articles that have 8,000, 9,000, 6,000, 3,000 shares, a lot of that is my own promotion. So if you want to contribute, they're going to look at you and say, how are you going to help promote my article? You don't have to be famous, but you have to at least have an ability to promote. There has to be a reason to be in there. Now, publications like Huffington Post has 35,000 contributors. They basically are a placeholder. If you get onto the Huffington Post and you write on the Huffington Post, you will get exactly 0 views of your article if you don't promote it. Okay, 0 is an exaggeration. You'll get 20. You get 50. So if you want views on that, you're going to have to promote it. So you come to me and say, hey, I want to contribute to an article you're writing for the Huffington Post. I'm going to look at you and be like, why should I include you if you can't help me actually promote the article? And so that's really why you want that. You're always looking for people that are going to have to know. I just released an article today. It literally came out an hour ago. You're going to like this, Desi. It's on 13 tips to build your Instagram. It actually just came out. It's on my Facebook page right now. I put it there. And I got people to contribute who are Instagram stars to actually give me tips on how to do it. They are real Instagram influencers. Why did I put them? Because they're going to help promote the article. I mean, they gave really good tips. Don't get me wrong. The article is a very powerful article. I anticipate that article doing really well. But it really comes down to, and there's 4 contributors in that article. I took four people or 5 people's advice in that article. And if you go on their Instagrams, you see they have pretty powerful Instagrams. So that's really what it's about. It's really about bringing people on to contribute that are actually going to help promote what you do.
Actually, that you just broke a huge myth that you don't instantly become a sensation after you get an article published on one of those platforms. So I would love to break another myth. Oh, and we have some fantastic questions, by the way. So the myth I want to break is a lot of people think that nurtured in these public, their entire to be something massive, you know. But the truth is that you, as a contributor, with a piece of advice on Instagram, for example, guys, to think that you need to be a multi-million-dollar business owner and have a from rags to riches story in order for you to be featured in these public.
Nope, you don't.
So just take that.
Desi, you're breaking up a little bit.
We have some fantastic questions here.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Matt. I think.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't think I am. I think you are.
Oh, it's BeLive. BeLive tends to do this to us, guys. Bear with us, please.
Okay, I think you're back. I think you're good. Nope.
Now, a few of the questions we have are, would sending paid traffic to those articles be considered an ethical strategy?
Okay. Yeah, so the interesting question is, I never do anything fake. I never do anything wrong. That always leads to a bad place. There's nothing to discuss. You don't want to send fake anything under any circumstances. No fake followers, no fake engagement, no fake anything. That's it. End of story. You always deal in a reputable way. If it ever gets out that you did that, your reputation can be ruined. You never want to do that.
And we have another fantastic question. Oh, no, not fake paid Facebook ads to real people. They mean real Facebook ads to real people.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the publications really like when you spend your money to promote their platform. That gives them a thrill. They like that. That's like free advertising for them. Remember what those platforms are doing. Everybody thinks that it's like this great thing to be on them, but what they're doing is they're running a smart business model. They're using free contribution to build their platform and generate ad revenue for themselves. So if you want to use Facebook and pay money to get engagement on your article, they're going to go for it, 100% go for it. I've done it a few times, by the way. I've actually done some sort of, side promotion to boost an article. It usually doesn't have a huge effect. If an article is really good and the topic is really good and you get a little lucky, it gets tons of natural engagement on its own. It's just the way it works.
I've been browsing through our comments and I found a gold question that I missed, and I really would love to ask you this. So, Alicia asks, how do you balance multiple projects as well as a personal brand? Should each of them be their own brand and consolidated under the personal brand?
I think that question is dependent upon what the individual projects are. In general, I try to get everything under the scope of my personal brand. But sometimes projects don't belong there. Like, for an example, in my case, I do some stuff that is political or spiritual. So by the rule that I gave before, I work on those projects on the side, and they have their own thing kind of separated from me because I don't want to bring them in. But that also could be for a business reason where the projects are so diverse, or maybe they're just one project you're actually working on is in Bulgaria, and that's the only place it sits. And then the other project is really a US-based project, and that's where your personal brand is. I think that that project in Bulgaria can really kind of stand on its own. But in general, the answer, I guess, is I would try whenever possible to bring it all under one umbrella, unless there is a mitigating reason to have separate individual ones, otherwise all together.
Most of my clients are service-based entrepreneurs, and I typically give them the same advice, even though a lot of them are very undecisive when it comes to this, because I guess it's a scary thing to unite everything under your personal brand.
Very scary, but here's what I will tell you. If you read the article that I wrote on the 8 ways a powerful personal brand can make you successful, it's actually on my website, sweetwood.com. It's also on Entrepreneur. One of the things that I say in there, everybody ready for the big word of the day? It's called serendipity. So a powerful personal brand brings you serendipity. What that means is that stuff just happens by luck. The person that you're talking about on one project happens to know somebody who knows somebody who's going to help you with project number 6. And it just all of a sudden comes together. It's like dating. It's like you can sit there and be on all the dating sites you want and swipe right all day. You can be in the supermarket picking bananas, and there walks right next to you. Now, you didn't go to the supermarket. You went there to get bananas, but you end up meeting somebody standing next to you who you're going to end up in a relationship with. And that's the way branding works. Personal branding is a lot like dating. I use that analogy a lot, which means that you always look your best, make sure your pocket square looks perfect, hair combed. I work on that very hard. Make sure you look good. Make sure you present yourself very well. You interact with all your people in the same way, and you try to get that cross-pollination between the various things, because you never know how that works. So serendipity is the best thing that happens out of bringing them all under one umbrella. So many of the things that have happened to me positively in my life have not happened through direct marketing or direct attempt. It happened really by just creating an amazing network and cross-pollinating.
That's actually, it leads me perfectly to what I want to ask you about BB, because I've been really excited about you sharing this platform with us. It's one of the most interesting brands I've seen so far. And you know, it's all about engagement with passions, guys. So it's about establishing deeper and stronger connections with people. So Matt, please tell us all about BB. You're now the CEO in the US for the brand. So it's a pretty big position with a lot of responsibilities, I would imagine.
Of course. So BB is a social network where the elevator pitches were somewhere between Facebook and LinkedIn. But what we do is we ultimately help people build personal brands. Now, if you look at LinkedIn, LinkedIn is an amazing network. Basically, every professional in the world is on LinkedIn. They have 500 million users. But LinkedIn is a network, is essentially a yellow pages. You don't really network there. The site is not really designed for networking. Anybody who's used the site knows it's extremely difficult. It's owned by Microsoft. Their goal is to generate revenue through data, through selling businesses, through job function, and so on. And that's why their messenger is not very good. The networking is not very good. It's not really their interest. And the other aspect of LinkedIn is I have 32,000 connections on LinkedIn, which means that my feed is useless, because my feed basically has everything that everybody posts, which I don't have common interest with 32,000 people. I just don't. Now on BB, connection is done through common interest or passion. So you can connect with somebody through an interest in digital marketing, an interest in scuba diving, an interest in hats. You can connect with people through a whole variety of ways. And when you have a common interest, then when you connect with somebody, there's actually a reason to connect. And actually when they share information and it appears in your feed, it's actually relevant to you. And that's the way we actually operate. And the way we build a personal brand is that if you go on BB, you sign in with your professional profile. So it looks a little bit like your LinkedIn profile. But then you participate in professional discussions and personal discussions. And as a result, when you look at somebody's profile, you see what their personal interests are and their professional interests are and in the way they engage. And when they produce content, they're going to produce content about their personal interests and about their professional interests. So it naturally creates a personal brand in one place. And then additionally to that, we're an open platform. So if you publish on BB, you don't have to be logged into BB to see the links. LinkedIn just did this a few weeks ago. But BB is an open platform. And the other thing we do is that when you publish on BB, we're very, very good at search engine optimization, SEO. So if you publish in the right way with the right title on our producer platform, it's like LinkedIn Pulse, you get very high Google ranking very quickly. So we are a very, very excellent marketing tool for individuals. On the business side, we actually help businesses build SEO and digital marketing. But that's kind of another, that's really an ad agency product. It's really on the other side. So anyway, that's BB in sort of in the fastest way that I can say. We have 3.5 million users worldwide right now, and hopefully we'll turn that into a large number at some point in the very near future.
It sounds like a truly revolutionary platform based on what you said, and we already have people in the comments going through the platform as you speak.
Excellent. Sign up. Buzz, I always say buzz on, right? We're BB. You know why we use BB? It's bee is a social animal. A bee is a very, very social animal, so that's where the name BB came from. Kind of funny, actually.
That's why I keep saying this is one of the most fascinating brands I've seen, because the entire branding is just brilliant. It's fantastic, really. Most brands don't pay attention to the details, which I really hate, because the devil is in the details, guys. You need to pay attention to them.
Favorite sayings, the devil's in the details, absolutely.
And we have people saying, signing up already, I'm signing up, I'll give it a go. That's fantastic, guys. Definitely sign up. I'll be signing up myself. And Svet says, Magic breaking up. I can't get you.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Okay, you're back, I think.
Okay, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sorry, Bill, I've tested. Before we let Matt go, guys, make sure if you had any other questions in the comments now so that we can ask Matt. If not, still throw them after the interview is done. Maybe he will get back and answer them.
Now, while they're doing that, I'll give people a tip. So you have a very, very active and impressive audience. I must say, I do these interviews pretty frequently, and I can see that you have garnered a very excellent and loyal and enthusiastic following. I called you, what did I call? I called you effervescent. That was another really good word for the day. I believe that that actually suits. But one of the things that I always recommend people, like I speak, and it's always amazing to me where I go speak in front of an audience of 100 people and nobody follows me. So now you're interviewing an influencer. Every single person who's following should follow me. Because remember, we're all talking about how to build our brand, and you should be tweeting at me or Facebooking at me, or you should be doing something like that, because you want me to actually retweet or engage with you and bring you out to my following. So everybody out there, follow me. My social is msweetwood, at msweetwood. It's everywhere. If you just go to my website, msweetwood.com, you click on the link to get me. But everybody there should be connecting with me, follow me, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it is you want to do, Instagram, all of those things. Just a little word of advice. Whenever you have a contact with an influencer, particularly if you have a way in, you can say, hey, I saw you on the Desi interview, or retweet something that I said. If you retweet something that I said, I'm going to be very, very likely to actually do that for you. I'm trying to fill in a little bit while you're breaking up, by the way, Desi, just to let you know.
You were breaking up in the last minute.
Yeah.
I didn't catch the last 30 seconds or so.
I'll just repeat
our audience caught it. Would you be so kind as to repeat the last 30 seconds of what you said, just in case they didn't hear it as well? Right.
What I always say is that when you're everybody who's listening now has a connection with me. They simply can say, I saw you on Desi's interview. And
Make sure you connect with you guys.
That's right. So they should follow me, connect with me everywhere. And a really smart thing to do is to take something that I said and retweet it or repost it and tag me. Because if you do that, I'm going to either share it or like it or comment on it or something like that. And that's a chance for you to access my audience. So that's something you should always do when you're in something like this, is try to connect with the people who have influence. So everybody should do that. Connect with me, follow me on Twitter, Connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, BB, whatever it is, and quote something I said. I have a lot of quotables today. Grab one of those things, quote it, retweet it, tag me in it, and then we'll interact. It's a way to build your following. Quote something I said. Did you catch that?
That is a fantastic tip, by the way, especially quoting something that he said, guys. This is also a fantastic way to, sorry, might have still a little bit, but I hope you guys can hear him well. I'm looking at my phone and I think it's fine there. So
yeah,
let us know, guys, if everything is okay with the connection there. Svet says he followed you everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go, Svet. Svet knows how to do these things. And he's also loving the connection between your name and the word honey.
Yeah, I get a lot of comments on my name, by the way. Sweetwood is kind of a funny name.
I'm just checking really quickly if our connection is okay for our viewers, because it's not for me. Okay, it is. Fantastic, guys.
I actually think
I'm just looking at Matt here because I cannot see him on the screen. So, Matt, before we let you go, I want to ask you this so important question, because you have done so many things in your career. You have accomplished so much and you are passionate about so many things. So what is the most interesting thing that has ever happened to you in your career?
The most interesting thing, wow, in my career. I'm going to take it, because we've had a very heavy interview, I'm gonna take it into a little bit more of a fun direction. Do you mind if I do that? Is that okay?
I'm here. I'm back, guys.
Okay, we're back. Okay, I don't know if you heard me, but what I said was, I want to take that question to a fun level. We've had a very heavy interview, so let's take it fun. The most interesting thing, that I would always say, the most significant thing, obviously, was raising my kids and doing that on my own. Obviously, that was the most important thing that I've done in my life. But the most interesting thing that I've ever had happen to me, and I'm going to go back almost 20 years, was when I was running my company in New Jersey. We were very, very friendly with the president of the bank that we dealt with. And then we had one of these moments where our small bank was bought up by one of the largest banks in the country. It was a bank called Fleet Bank. Fleet, like the fleet of ships. It actually is a maritime bank or whatever. And we had an event here called Fleet Week, which was like the 200 and something anniversary of the Navy. And because of my business relationship with the president of the bank, he arranged for me and my brother to go on a very, very special trip. This was like the best perk ever. And during Fleet Week, the entire U.S. Navy, or a big part of the U.S. Navy, comes into New York Harbor and does a demonstration. And they arranged a very special tour for VIPs of the bank. And my tour included getting on a Navy plane at an airport. The plane took off. I landed on an aircraft carrier in a plane. I actually stayed overnight on an aircraft carrier in an officer's cabin. They toured us around the ship. We saw the nuclear reactor. We saw the turbines. They actually launched F-16 jets off the deck. They did a night launch. They did everything. So for me, that was like one of the most amazing experiences that I got as a result of having a business, having a personal brand that actually people engaged with. Why do you think the bank president invited us? He liked us. He liked what we did. He liked all of those things. So for me, that I think was like, that's a little bit of a guy thing, I know. But for me, that was like the coolest thing. I got to land, in a plane on an aircraft carrier and a tour and jets taking off and everything. I'll always remember that. So I wanted to go a little fun with that. I think that was, I don't know why I recalled that now, but it just came to me.
That's a fantastic memory, though. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And Svet says, wow, that must have been flabbergasting. Svet really likes using long words.
You know, it was one of those moments, I'll add, it was one of those moments. It was right after the Iraq War. And I remember being on that ship thinking to myself, what were the Iraqis thinking? They had, I mean, they're sitting there with like, you know, World War II rifles, and we're sitting here with laser guided, you know, rocket ships and computerized whatever. I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, what were they thinking? It was amazing. It was truly amazing to see the precision and the might and the technology. It was crazy. It was crazy.
I love that. By the way, before I forget, let us know when your new book is coming out, because I'm sure everybody here would love to grab that.
So the book is going to be out. I actually have a published date. It's not available yet for pre-sale on Amazon. We're designing the cover right now. It'll be out on March 6th. But obviously, if you follow me on my social media, I will engage. Because to sell, and just so you know, everybody, just because you get a publisher, just like a magazine or a publishing article, doesn't mean it sells. You have to go out and market the book yourself. Right? I have a publishing deal. They're going to publish it for me. It's really cool and all of that stuff. It's my memoir. It's the story of my life, raising my kids, running a business, doing all of those things, but I still have to promote it. It'll take 4 or 5 months of lead up of work to actually get that book to sell if I want more than 12 people, of which 5 will be my kids, to read the book. Okay? March 6th, 2018 is the launch date for the book.
March 6, 2018, guys, mark it in your calendars. That's a fantastic tip because we have a lot of people here looking to publish books, me included. And I know that it takes a lot of self-promotion as well, regardless of the deal that you strike with your publisher.
That's absolutely. They don't market it for you. They just take your money. That's what they do.
I love that. Thank you so much for that insight. And thank you so much for being here with us. This has been one of the most, if not the most engaged interview in this group, Matt.
Thanks for having me. It was a terrific interview. Questions, fantastic. I think it's really good. I'm going to be happy to promote this interview everywhere on my channels too. And we got to do it again sometime. We'll do it again in the future. It'd be great.
Well, I think my people will kill me if I don't bring you back on here. So absolutely, we'll do it again. Fantastic.
Everybody, make this week the biggest week of your life. I always say that. Make it a big week.
Make it a big week, guys. And with that, we are logging off. So have a great day.